So the next thing we're going to do is take off the leather cover. I've already, just for speed, gone ahead and carefully removed the stitches that are holding the leather onto the steering wheel. And so it's a fairly simple process at that point in time to just go in and remove the leather. And because we're replacing the leather on the steering wheel, I'm going to go ahead and cut one of the seams where it was sewed together, just to make it a little quicker and easier to remove it. There we go. And that does it. So this steering wheel is ready to pattern the new leather and to put the new cover together. So here we are cutting the last bit of the leather out for the pattern, and then we will put the pattern together. Now that we have the leather cut and ready to go through the next steps of making the pattern, a lot of people don't understand what goes into the process of making a steering wheel cover or upholstering a steering wheel. And just to give you an idea, the different steps that we do, the making of the pattern itself, the literally layout of the leather and exactly how it needs to fit on the steering wheel, is about a 2-hour process for every single steering wheel. And we do over 2,000 different makes and models of vehicles here at Craft Customs. But in addition to that, there's a lot of other steps. We're going to show you next, after the cover is finished, the sewing process, as well as some of the QC steps that we go through after everything's done. QC is our quality control and final make ready steps. That entire process can take anywhere from 20 or 30 minutes on a fairly simple steering wheel up to an hour, sometimes even 2 hours for the make ready on a more difficult steering wheel. Also, what types of stitches we use. We have 6 different stitch patterns that we use here at Craft Customs. The simplest stitch pattern can take about an hour to sew it. And again, we're going to be going over that here in a few minutes. But the more difficult stitches can take up to about 3 hours, sometimes even more, to sew a steering wheel. So a lot of people don't understand that a steering wheel literally can take anywhere from, on the low side, 5 or 6 hours to upholster a steering wheel. On the high side, about 12 hours to upholster a more difficult steering wheel with a more difficult stitch. Okay, and the next thing that we are doing is finishing sewing the cover together. So now this cover will go through a couple more steps before we actually put it on the wheel, and we'll be back. Okay, so now we are putting the cover onto the steering wheel, and as you see, we've got the cover already put on it, and we're in the process. It's got to be lined up 100% accurately. This one has a dial, a 12 o'clock racing stripe or dial at the 12 o'clock position, and if that is off even a 1/16 of an inch, it actually makes it look an 1/8 of an inch off and makes it not correct. So the time that goes into getting a dial to be accurate, it takes about an hour to make the dial and then get it accurate. And we run into a problem when you're sewing it, it scoots the dial over. So there's a number of things that we go through to make sure that that doesn't happen. And so the dials are all 100% accurate. The next thing that we do is we have to make sure that it is lined up perfectly, and it has to be shaped perfectly to the steering wheel. There is literally 1/16 inch of variance that we have of play that we have to work with. Our patterns have to be within a 1/16 of an inch of perfect. And so that is a proprietary thing that we do here at Craft Custom. And then we also adhere all leathers to the steering wheel. And so we use a special proprietary adhesive here. We put it on, and then we lay the wheel down into place, and then it will be ready to sew at that point in time. Okay, so for our next step, we'll be sewing the steering wheel, stitching the cover onto the steering wheel, and all of that is done by hand. We have about 6 different stitches that we do here at Craft Customs. I'm going to be demonstrating the baseball stitch, which is the simplest stitch and probably the most prevalent stitch out there. And a couple of things are, the cover at this point in time has to fit perfect. It can't have an overlap, and it can't be not closing. So our patterns have to be made exact, and we have a proprietary method of making the patterns here that makes sure that the patterns are perfect every time as it fit. Also, the stitches, each one takes its own time. A baseball stitch is the simplest stitch, and they usually take between an hour and an hour and a half to stitch a steering wheel. There's some of the stitches that we use that take about 2 hours, and some of the stitches that we stitch patterns that take 3 to 4 hours to do. So you can kind of imagine that about 30% of the make of the steering wheel is in the pattern. 30, 25%, something like that, is in just stitching the pattern on. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the baseball stitch here. And again, every single steering wheel is sewn by hand. Each stitch, each hole is done by hand on every steering wheel in the world. So it's not something that's done on a machine and that just automatically happens. But that's the method for doing the baseball stitch, and I will work my way all the way around through all the holes, and then our steering wheel will move to the next step, which is our make ready. And we go through and put it through a series of processes, cleaning, of correcting the stitches, everything to make that steering wheel ready to ship. And then it goes through a quality control check at the very end of the process, where our quality control manager approves it before it is shipped out from the Craft Customs shop. Okay, so now we have our Porsche 911 GT Sports steering wheel all reupholstered, and it's ready to go through some of its next steps. I wanted to talk briefly about the leather qualities that we use. Everything that we use on all of our steering wheels is an automotive grade leather only, which is a much higher grade leather than other leathers available on the market because of the oils in our hands and the cleaners and all that happen in a car that don't happen elsewhere. But not only that, we also use higher grade imported automotive leathers. And so this leather is actually a Ferrari leather that we use on this, even though it's a Porsche. For the racing style, we also use Porsche leathers, Lamborghini leathers, Lexus leathers, Mercedes leathers, BMW leathers. A lot of our leathers are specifics to vehicles, but we use a number of different high-end leathers only though. The next step that the steering wheel is going to go to, as you can tell, it's still got threads hanging out of it, so it's going to go through, before we reassemble it, it's going to go through some quality control steps and make ready steps. So it'll go into make ready next, where all the stitches are evaluated and checked to make sure that the stitches are going in the exact right layout, and all that has to be tweaked during this make ready process. We go through, check all the stitches, tie the knots, we trim the ends so that they fit the car exact, and the airbag and horn pad, the back cover, whatever's needed on one steering wheel to the next. And then it goes through a final inspection where our QC manager will approve or kick it back for further make ready or quality inspection. So that's all the steps that our steering wheels go through. We'll be back next to show you the final finished and QC'd steering wheel ready to ship out. Okay, so now we are at the point of completion on the Porsche 911 GT Sports steering wheel. I went on and reassembled and put the trim back on it since we've already gone over how to take it off. But putting it back on is exactly opposite, much easier. Just wanted to show you a little bit. It's already gone through QC. We talked about the stitches a little bit before, but I just wanted to show you the detail of the stitch pattern, how each stitch has got to be exactly right in order to maintain the integrity of the final product. And so that is the finished 911, and it is ready to ship back out.